Hello there. This video is all about the updates that we have done related to the people refiner options or filters, if you want. In PnP Modern Search, we are now in the summer of 26, and this is just a walkthrough of what we can do right now, the capabilities that we have when we're dealing with people-related refiners. This is a list that I've created for this test purpose. As you can see, I have a number of fields available here, and if we go and have a look at the list settings, you can see that we have um, these fields available, and the one I'm looking for right now, because we're dealing with people refiners, is the ZPA case responsible. It is a people field, and if we go and have a look at it, it is actually set up to allow multiple selections. So it's the worst of the worst. We can select people, and we can select multiple people in this case. So as you know, when we create our list here and we enter some data, then the search indexer will automatically go through and pick up that we have now created some content with various fields related to it. That will create the crawl property as well as the manage property. If it is created as a side column, if it's just created as a list column, then you'll only get the crawl property. But in this case, we're going to map it anyway, so it's not that important. If we go and have a look at the managed properties we have here, if we zoom in a little bit, you can see that I have a refinable string 123. It's related to the one without the Q underscore user. The other one is related as is mapped to refinable string 124. So what's the difference between those two? Well, if you go and have a look at the data behind them, you can see that this one only contains the name, the display name of that person, whereas the other one contains more. Now switch to one of the most important tools I'm using when I'm doing anything search related. It's the SP search, the search part of the SP editor. And as you can see down here, I have now extracted my data. And this is the way that you can tell the difference between what is a refinable string 123, just a name. And if we're looking at the refinable string 124, I'll just scroll up a little bit so you can see it. There we go. Then it contains a lot more info related to that person, like the display name, the URL, the UPN for that user. So this is a more rich data set than what we have in just the name. Set up on a search page. We have the search box, we have the refiner, and we have the results. So let's set it up for our purpose here. We're going to use SharePoint search. We are going to use a path to the list that we are dealing with. Once we have some data here, then we can add our two refinable strings. We have the 113 and 114. Let's see if they are in here. If they're not in here, you can just type it in yourself in the box over here. That has the same effect. But they are here, so let's select them. Those are important, otherwise if we haven't selected them here, we can't see them in the filter. So that's the way to do that. Remember to add them here first. So let's connect to the search box. There we go. And we want to use the wildcard as the default value, then connect to the filter. Once we do that, it comes up with a warning, say, well, this is fine, but you also have to connect the filter to the search results. So let's do that in order to kill that warning. So there we go. Now that is connected. So now we can set up our filter over here. I want to use the value first, just a name. So let's call it just name. And I want to use a template over here. Let's just say I want to use, I can use the checkbox, but I prefer to use, I have to use the the checkbox, by the way. In this case, expand by default. That's fine, and I want to use single value initially. So let's do that. So now they are all popping up. A lot of people are showing up here. That's fine. These are single selections, so they work right away. If I select Alejandro here, then it will immediately send a search request back. I have forgotten to set up the results to show my selected filters. I want to see that like that. So it also responds the other way around. So if I just unselect it, it will initially load the full data set again. This is pretty easy to work with, and you can of course search for people here as well. One of the options you saw in the refiner up here that is new is that you can show a warning where the limit is reached. What limit? What are you talking about? As you see over here, there's a field called number of values. By default, we only get 100 items back in the refiner. So if you have like 50 distinct values in your refiner, that's not a problem because the limit is 100. If we have more than 100 distinct values over here and the limit is 100, then it will only get back the 100 that is specified. So you might miss out. There's some people that might not be in the list. You can't search for them. They're just like they never existed. So let's have a look at what this actually do. Let's just say 100 here. I know that by the fact that this is the limit that we are working on right now, or working with right now. Let's just set that. When I set that warning, then it shows up a red warning up here saying, well, sorry, mate, you only get 100 items back, but we know that there might be more. So it's just a warning that if you search for somebody who's in, you know they are in this list, they don't show up. That is an issue. What you can do then is that you can increase the limit. However, we want to get 10,000 back, but the maximum is 1,000 items. That is a maximum that's set in the search APIs by Microsoft. So they do that probably for performance reasons. So in this case, I can just set it to use the maximum that we want to get back. That's 1,000. So did that do anything? Yeah, well, not really. In this case, I know for a fact that we have about 5,000 distinct values in this data set. It's 5 distinct values for name. So this one will still show up saying, well, you got to have a problem here. Just wait. Another way to have a look at that is to go into the search, to go into your developer tools as well. And in there, you will also be able to see in the console, there's a warning code showing up that how many items we get back per refiner. So to simply state that in the refinable string 123 returned so many items, and the limit was the current value, whatever that might be. So that's also where you can actually figure out whether that you have a problem right now. Another option, of course, is to make it multi-value. That does change the default implementation, so you'll have to select one or more people and then apply the filter. That, in this case, when we're dealing with such a huge data set, also takes forever. Generally, if you hit the limit, and as you can see, it becomes pretty slow to respond. If you hit the limit, the right way to deal with that is to actually try to segregate your content into multiple chunks. Make it by department, by dates, ranges, or how you can split up your content. That depends, of course, on the concrete data that you're dealing with, but make it into different chunks and then have a search vertical up there in the top where you can actually specify which sort of like chunk you want to work That makes the data set for each refiner's lower, the number of items, distinct items lower. So that is the way to deal with that. However, what I've shown you now is not what I recommend. What I recommend is that you don't use refinable string 123. You use the one that was 124 because that was the one that actually contained more data. It also contained the UPN. It makes it easy for possible for us to deal with the data better because it's not just the name; it's actual data that we're dealing with. So, in order to do that, I recommend that you use that refinable string that has been mapped to the q underscore user, and you select the people template instead. We still, of course, have the issue with the how many items that has been returned to us, but let's use this one instead. Because you can see over here we have multiple Aaron Ward, for instance, so it's sort of like doesn't take into account that we have the same user might show up multiple times because this is a multi-select field, so it's not really optimized to deal with that. However, the people template is optimized to deal with that. So once it shows up, you'll see that it only shows the same person once, except in the cases where we have multiple people with the same name but different UPNs. In that case, you'll actually see multiple identical names over here. And that is something that we can deal with in the refiner, in the display template that we actually can sort of like trigger to change that. So it will also show like the email address or something like that. But as you can see, we have now multiple we have gotten rid of the multiple people, so we have them all unique. And in this case, it's also the one where we can select that one and that one and that one and then apply. In this case, it makes absolutely no sense because there's most likely not. Well, it could be cases where we have. I'm looking for a case where Aaron is on and Adam and Aisha. Um, so and actually makes sense on that one. In most cases, however, it will probably be that we use the or operator between them. So it's a case where either that one or that one or that one is on the case. As you can see, it takes a while because this is a really bad case. Sort of like done that on purpose in order to make sure that it stress tests the system. That's what I use this list for. But it is something that we have tried to optimize, but it's still not exactly fast when we're dealing with such huge data sets. So again, split them into chunks. That's my recommendation to get it down to probably like below 1,000 distinct items, because in this case I know there's 0,000. I think it's 5,000 different values. So it is kind of slow. So now the filter has been set, and we can see that it returns the expected data, in this case 13 results. Otherwise, it exactly as you expected. So the summary of this one is basically, if you have been using just the name value for your refiners, stop doing that, please, and change to the one with the Q user, and use the people template in the refiner to show people. It is way better, and it also gives us some options to segregate them in an easy way. So that is sort of like what we recommend for the time being, and we are trying to optimize that experience where it actually works fine, at least up to 1,000 items, and perhaps in the future more than 1,000 items. Time will tell. I hope you found this interesting and that you can actually use it in your work with the PnP Modern Search. Have a great one.